Welcome to the 26th episode of the Most Serious Podcast. In today's episode, I had an amazing opportunity to talk to Mr. Vineet Patauri, who is a very intelligent and a financially literate person. Mr. Vineet Patauri is the co-founder and CEO of eLearn Markets and StockEdge, both of which are platforms which are helping many people across our nation to get financially literate. Mr. Vineet is also a chartered accountant and an alumnus of IIM Indore. In this episode, we talk about stock markets. We break them down for you in simpler terms and so that everyone can understand them, even if they don't have any experience in it. We talk about financial literacy and its importance, and how most people don't recognize until it's too late that they need to become financially literate. We also discuss entrepreneurship and why Mr. Vineet Patauri himself took that journey. We also talk about careers in stock market. Everyone knows about investing or trading in the markets, but do you actually know that there are many lucrative profiles that you can get a job in the stock market? Mr. Vineet also discusses about creating wealth versus creating income from the market. So every individual has a different approach when it comes to the perception of stock markets, and it can be utilized as a source of income and also as a means to create massive wealth. Do listen to this episode if you find these topics interesting. If you want to make yourself a bit more financially literate than you are right now. I hope you like the conversation today. Let's get into the episode now. Mr. Vineet Patauri, how are you? And welcome to the Most Serious Podcast.
Hey, hi, Ribu. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm doing wonderful and so wonderful to talk to you on this Saturday morning. So looking forward to having a great discussion with you.
You're still working. I can see people walking around behind you, and you're in office, I believe. So is that a part of who you are? Like no weekends off or something like that?
No. Sundays are absolutely family days.
Okay.
But other than Sundays, I come from that Indian mindset where Saturdays were always working days. In my family businesses and all that, Saturday used to be the busiest day, right? So we keep it. Saturdays are generally very busy, but for the team, there are certain teams who work Saturdays, there are certain teams who don't, right? And we are pretty flexible on that. So yeah, the work goes on.
You know what was very interesting when I was reading about your profile, and I did some research, first-hand research, who is Mr. Vineet Patauri. So I looked this up, and you have an interest in recreational mathematics, and that was something that really stuck with me. Like people are often the people who are not in academia or who are not doing higher studies in fields like STEM or mathematics. So they don't tend to be closely associated with something which is as concrete as problem solving in real mathematics, and you do it in your free time. So tell me a little bit about that. Was mathematics your love kind of a thing, or did you develop it over time?
Yeah. Exactly. So it was a childhood love, right? Bachpan ka pyar bhula nahi jata. Yeah. It was childhood love, and mathematics. I would say in my study times, 70, 80%, 90% of my time used to go into only one subject, which was maths. I have two kids now, and I only ask them about one subject, whether how good or bad they are doing in that. That's mathematics. So it's that part which went ahead. And later on in my life, I realized that if you have good quantitative aptitude, right, that's an essential part of your IQ and the way you look at things, right? So and also decision making. So I did a lot of I would say small work on Vedic maths, wherein I created a website called Quicker Maths when I was in college, right? And Abacus, Techenberg's method. So, basic principles of, I didn't go too deep into it. As you can see, I graduated in commerce and I shifted lines. But yes, anything which comes in our day-to-day life, I love that kind of maths and I love to play around with that. Yes.
So as a child, let's go back to 10th grade or 9th grade or somewhere like that, and you're figuring your life out, and you have this love for mathematics unbound, and you know कि हाँ maths तो पसंद है, बाकी पता नहीं life में क्या करेंगे. So was it that kind of a situation for you, या फिर पहले से you were clear कि नहीं, I want to do something around economics or something around like this whole stock market, share market thing, or e-commerce or something like that?
See, the world is very different these days, right? Okay. I very surprised to see people in their 20s very clear about their entire career, what they want to do, right? Probably it was not back then, especially because of the lack of information, right? I was in class 10 in the year 2000. Okay. So at that point of time, computer was hardly there, internet was hardly there. So, when you don't have that kind of access, what do you think is today? You don't think too much in the future.
Right.
And at that point of time, the thought was that let's get into, let's say, science. I have to take science, I have to take engineering, etc. But somehow there were incidents which, typically what happens in India, you have this whole admission drama which goes on, right? After you graduate, after you complete your board exams. And there a mark or two here and there can change the way your life will move from there. So probably 2 marks more could lead you in a different path altogether. So something like that happened. So I ended up taking commerce. So from there, things worked in a very different way, right? But, my point is, you don't always decide what you will do at a very early age. So it was not like that. But yes, one thing which was there was, even when the field changed, mathematics was always a crucial part of my chosen subjects, because as you move ahead, you can choose your subject. So mathematics was always a part. And I, in my company, when I take people, we have created a test which is quantitative aptitude heavy. It's an aptitude test overall, right? But it's quants heavy. And the reason for that, I personally believe that you need certain IQ level. And the best determinant of IQ is, mathematics, or to say the quantitative aptitude which you have. So all 200 people probably in our company might have taken that test somewhere or the other. So yeah, that belief actually comes into your work also as you move ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it also resonates with the kind of work that you do. It's a lot of number crunching. It's a lot of estimates. It's a lot of breaking down big numbers or big trades into quick results or quick understandable avenues, right? And I think that's why maths is very important. But you might be breaking hearts of people who one day wanted to join something like e-learn markets, and they hear now I'm not good at maths. Is it game over for me?
No, it's not at all game over for him. See, what I want is mathematical way of thinking. It's not that you need to be bachelor's or higher mathematics. No, it's mathematical way of thinking, which makes stock markets, in stock markets is a game of probability to a large extent. And to a large extent, you need to decipher the past data, right? Whether it is in terms of the charts which we see, right? The numbers which are in terms of the volume, the prices of the past, or let's say in terms of the balance sheet, profit and loss, everything, whatever, that's past data. And you need to, do analysis on that to come to a future answer. And that there is a probability involved, right? So point is, you need a mathematical thought process. Otherwise, it becomes gamble. See, gambling also probability, right? Ultimately. And if you understand probability better and you can use it, right, probably you will be a better card player, you will be a better dice player also. So the point is, it's a thought process. It's the mindset. It's not about whether you are good at, if I give you a mathematical sum, you will be able to solve it or not. No, not at all. It's your thought process which is important. Be logical. That's what I want.
Yeah, I think I agree with that also. It's not necessarily hardcore problem solving, but it's the way you approach problems, right? That's what you're emphasizing on. Now, exactly. This brings me to something that I was also interested in asking you, that you did MBA from IIM Indore, right? And I believe you also did CA. So that seems like a very premium package for someone who was a commerce student. And if you pick up any random Indian commerce student, so if you tell them, okay, you do CA, you do MBA from IIM Indore, so they won't have many aspirations after that. I think that's a very good, that's the idea of good life that we sell in India, right? So what led you to not pursuing a job maybe, or settling down for something that was stable, something that was fixed, to doing something that was more entrepreneurial, like Elon Markets or StockEdge, and you shifted to all of your like personality to share markets and everything, right? Educating people and all. So why this entrepreneurial side came into play?
Yeah. So more than stock market, I'll say entrepreneurial side, which you just mentioned. And see, in India especially, we are a status-driven society, wherein we, if someone has done IAS, probably we see him at the highest strata of the society. If there is a politician, it's highest on the top of the power pyramid. So similarly, someone who has gone to an IIM or a chartered accountant for that matter, what we believe is, there is a halo at the back, and he gets a status. I believe there is nothing which decides what you have done in your graduation. That's not the only determinant of what you will do in your future. All right. So that is one myth or one idea which Indians need to break, because the education or learning is lifelong process. It doesn't stop at graduation level. See, I can say the education which I did structured my thought process, how I think, how do I make decisions. But I am not exactly doing audit work or taxation work or legal work, which probably was part of my chartered accountancy syllabus, right? In MBA, it's a generic course, right, where you learn about decision making as such in various aspects of business. So my point is, whatever field you are from, that is not the determinant of your career. So let's say you are doing chemical engineering. You can do anything in life because you have spent 4 years learning about chemical engineering, but you can spend next 20 years learning about big data or learning about something else, right? So my point is, don't let your graduation level or post-graduation level education decide what you will do. That was number one. Number two, my internal idea, my thought process was always that you should start something on your own, because the opportunities that you can create out of that are much larger than you do even for yourself doing a job, right? By doing a job, you earn certain amount of money. Probably you will have to defer that. There has to be deferment of the income, but ultimately the income will come, right? If you are ready to do that and you do it right after your college, then the cost is minimal, right? The cost is minimal, the opportunity cost is minimal, and there is an insurance that if you let's say if you're not able to do it, you can always come back and do something for your survival. So if you have good education, I would suggest people to get into entrepreneurship, especially at these point of time, which are best of the times for entrepreneurs, because funds are available. The best of the best tech is available. People are adopting tech. So these are wonderful times. Whatever you are doing, think about becoming an entrepreneur. If you have an idea and on the contrary, I'll also say one thing: only do entrepreneurship, only start a venture if you can't live without doing it, right? If the fire is strong enough. If the fire is not strong enough, obviously you'll come back to a job or something, because you'll not be able to sustain the pressure which gets built up in running a venture of your own. So yes. So have I answered your question?
You did. And I think I was about to start talking about the stock markets, but you raised a very interesting point that only pursue entrepreneurship if you believe that you have the fire, or if you have the, that hunger inside of you to go and get after it. But also, like, you being a person who has in a certain way done it for people, let's say of my age. So how would you advise someone listening to this podcast, like, these are some markers, or these are certain parameters where you can judge your hunger, or where you can judge your belief for entrepreneurship, that is this something that I am just excited for a couple of months because it's cool, or are there certain things that are laid down as markers in this whole journey?
So what I would suggest a person who's just starting his journey is, after you are done with your studies, you must take up a job. When we are studying, we have various ideas. We want to do this, that, right? Take up a job in the field you want to build your startup. and the opportunity right now is humongous. Whatever you think of, there will be some or the other player who might be working on that, right? Try and get an internship or a full-time job or whatever is possible, and do it along with your studies if possible, if not after your studies, and gain the experience which you want. And the other thing which you should do is parallelly start working on your project, right? Make it as you have 24 hours. Any job takes up only 8 to 9 to 10 to 11 hours, right? You have a lot of time left. And this is the time when you need to work the hardest. And if you do something parallelly, which is not in direct contradiction with the job you are doing, right? It is in parallel, which probably is helping your employer also. So let me give you an example. I have a colleague, right, who has got a Instagram following of more than 1 lakh people. And he created a page called Kolkata Sutra. We are a Kolkata based company. Now in this Kolkata Sutra, he is posting some things about Kolkata, right? And he has got an income because of that. He being an influencer now. Now he posts regularly about us also over there, right? So it's in no contradiction to what we are doing. In fact, we have got an in-house influencer, and we appreciate that, and we also kind of encourage more people to take up things like that. So let's say tomorrow he is out of this company for some reason, he can start a business which is around the idea of only as an influencer marketer, or he can stretch it to something else also. So point is, build an audience for yourself, whatever work you are doing. So I typically appreciate people like you who are doing podcasts and building an audience, someone on Insta or YouTube or things like that. So whenever you want to launch something, you have a ready-made audience, which is the most difficult part to create once you launch something. So I'm saying, start working on your idea, right? On the paper, start working on building the audience, right? And you should have a job. And why do I say the job? Because at the onset, you need to learn how an organization functions, how things are scaled up, right? If you lack that knowledge, probably you'll be able to launch something, but not able to manage it properly, especially the people management part and the scaling up part, because these are things which you need to learn, right? By looking at how others are doing it. Obviously, you can do it by hit and trial, but that will take more time. So I always suggest do a job after your graduation.
I think, yeah, that's really good advice for someone who's looking to maybe begin their career also. Like, it doesn't have to be a professional job career or an entrepreneurial, just a decent advice for someone who's just starting out. Now, obviously, this was, as we discussed, the main idea or something that we wanted to talk about. And I am, let me give this disclaimer to everyone who listens and to you as well. I'm a very newbie and someone who doesn't have any knowledge, I would like to say, about stock markets, just the basic functioning, that what are stocks and what is a share and everything like that. Now, very, very interesting point that came along was, in this COVID period, I saw that people around me and even myself was drawn to the stock market. And I don't know why this naturally happened. And I saw maybe it was scam 1992, or it was something of the market falling because of COVID or anything. But I saw a huge surge in people around me and everywhere getting interested into stock markets, getting interested into opening up accounts and demat accounts, or maybe downloading apps that can allow you to trade. So what's your view on it? Like, was this just Indian market, or was this just a very personalized experience of people around me? Or did this actually happen that India got a surge in the traders or something during this COVID period?
Yeah. So overall, the financial market participants surged by around 35% in 16 months from March 2020 to, let's say, this year, June, July. All right. So there were addition of around 1.5 crore new demat accounts in this period. All right. Which was till date, the total was around 4.5 crores active accounts, and 1.5 crores got added in just these 16 months. So the point was, there was a huge surge, and the surge was there for definite reason. See, if you remember, during March 2020, everything got shut. Everything was shut. the markets were hardly shut even for a day. All right, there were very few days when markets was shut. So if you have nothing to do, you might have seen search in a lot of things. For example, all the edtech platforms, education platforms, right? Suddenly everyone was going online to learn things. You saw that everyone is sitting at home and people are cooking. Suddenly everyone has turned up into a cook, and there are pictures all around on Insta and other places. Suddenly people started understanding that we are sitting at home. Why not utilize our time by making good use of the money which is also lying idle, right? So financial markets, stock markets become the only viable option. Reason being, the interest rates also plunged, and the money which you can earn out of fixed deposits or any other thing was below the inflation rate. So you are actually losing money by putting your money in savings account or fixed deposits. So people started exploring mutual funds and equity markets, direct equity participation. Plus, this was one reason. The other reason was, at this point of time, there are multiple players came into the industry from the fintech space, in the investech space, especially like Upstocks and Zerodhas, and they created this market of the first time investors. Earlier, investment used to be the act of people who, like, of the generation above us, right? A 20-year-old doesn't used to think about investments. But now what has happened is, since it's becoming DIY, people like us at Stockage and eLearn Markets are making markets simpler for everyone, right? What has happened is, even a 20-year-old or even lesser has started thinking of investing in markets directly, right? So there is a huge surge of first-time investors, right? And luckily, or fortunately or unfortunately, it has been a bull market after that, right? Bull market attracts more and more people into the market. That is the third reason. It has been a continuously upsurge since March 2020, when it saw a deep plunge. Post that, it has been increasing one way almost, which led to more and more players coming into this. Because when you hear that your neighbor is earning money out of stock markets, you also want to try. And that's happening across the country. So these are the three reasons which led to the surge. Yeah.
Do you think the Indian population is in general more risk averted in nature, and that is primarily, or let's say that is kind of the main reason that you talked about also, like early investors didn't come into the market before this COVID period, right? So there were experienced players into the game, and a 20-year-old, 25-year-old, or maybe even a 30-year-old didn't think about getting into investments or something. Do you think it is because of we are apprehensive to risk as Indians, or was there some, like, why COVID did this to us? Like obviously there were these three reasons, but do you think as a population we now move forward to becoming more informative about all of the markets, and we become more risk oriented maybe, and instead of terming it something as a taboo or something like that, like stock markets is gambling, or statements like that, blanket statements that don't necessarily cover or academically explain you everything. So do you think this will help Indians move towards that phase, or is this just a fad?
It's not a fad, definitely. There has been mindset change, and I'll tell you why that mindset change actually happened. See, what has happened is, earlier this entire financial markets were seller-driven, seller-dominated markets. And who were the sellers? The brokers, right? If you have to have, there were no, in the entire ecosystem, if you wanted to invest in equity markets, the brokers were so crucial, and they used to manage everything from making you learn about financial markets to giving you the analysis, the data, the reports, and then ultimately the transaction facility, the relationship managers, the wealth management services. Everything used to be under brokers, right? And there was inefficiency in their operations. Okay, the markets became efficient because of the advent of technology in this space. Suddenly there was so much of technological innovation happening in this space. From sellers market, it became buyers market. And because of that, the services which I was talking about, there were specialist firms, organizations who used to launch things on a very, very specific area and build expertise into that. For example, financial market education. We created eLearn Markets, which is only around financial market education. And we got together hundreds and hundreds of experts who earlier used to be very scarce because they used to be in a particular region and geographically limited, also very expensive because of the infrastructure, because of the management and all. We made it available as webinars for 2 hours in 500 rupees. So the cost went down drastically because of this specialization, right? So we did it in eLearn Markets with respect to financial market education. Similarly, we did with Stockage for financial market analysis. You need a tool to analyze markets to take decision, right? Zerodha and Upstocks of the world did it by completely focusing on seamless transaction and removing all the other layers from it and making the transaction cost very, very minimal. So what I mean is there were inefficiencies at every level, which used to scare people from entering into this kind of market, right? Because it was too complicated, cumbersome. The process was cumbersome and the stock market used to be complicated. It was not democratized. Now, this COVID made it democratized because of the advent of technology, right? So, and the technology is going to stay. There will be more innovation in future. And that's why I say it's not a fad. It's going to be there. And the kind of growth we have seen in last 1.5, 2 years, that's going to continue and even go up from here. And we are looking at a huge market, right? We are still scratching the surface. There are 6 to 7 crore Demat accounts as of today, but India is a 130 crore population, right? We are yet to grow to a large extent, and especially because all the other asset classes, all the other investment avenues are becoming less efficient. So yes, it's going to stay, and we all need to participate in financial markets.
Wow, this sounds very interesting to someone, and I certainly am in my final year of my college, and as soon as you hear the idea of now, it's very cool to trade and to invest, right? And I think it's good because as soon as the financial literacy of the whole country increases, we grow as a country as well. The GDP increases and things like that. So the actual development happens from the mindset, right? But many people get intimidated just by this whole concept of trading in stock markets, right? So most people don't have that sort of capital. Now it's easy to trade with less capital. You can start with a minimum amount of, 1,500, 5,000 rupees. But still, for someone who doesn't have that sort of capital to make this a full-time working role, or they are fascinated with the share market and everything, but they don't see themselves as big players in this market, right? And they still want to be a part of it. That brings us to careers in stock market, right? So like looking from the outside, I only know that you can invest in the market or you can trade, and maybe you know about brokers, so who help you in the process. And that's a very traditional point of view. As you said, brokers were everything about stock market that you wanted to know. And they were the only medium through which you can get access to this whole new world, which everyone was not aware of. So can you talk to me about, are there some new careers in the stock market, or were there pre-existing careers in stock market that people are not aware of? And how can someone navigate their way through this maze of careers in share markets or equity markets?
Sure. So, we need to look at it from two perspectives. If you look at the whole market, the market is growing, right? So you need more people, and financial markets at the end of the day are complicated. It's not that it's very simple. It's becoming simpler than earlier, but again, there are new avenues which are coming. For example, cryptocurrencies, for example, NFTs. So these new avenues of investments, there are people who don't understand it, but they have money. And there are people who understand it, but they don't have money, right? So what I want to do is, if you want to make a career, first thing which you need to do is educate yourself. After educating yourself, you can get various avenues of using that knowledge, either for a job or for self-trading. And let me also tell you, stock markets are not only for trading. Trading is a part of markets, right? If you have money, right, you invest it for longer term and you create wealth. People who want to do full time, they want to do it to create an income, income flow, right? But people who have money already, they want to create more wealth out of their money. They want to money work for them. And that's where a bigger use of financial market is, right? Making money out of trading, you need special skill sets. You need to learn them. Once you have learned them, right, there are firms which can help you. So, there is proprietary trading. There is a concept of proprietary trading where the money is given by the firm and the risk is taken by the firm. Obviously, there are rules and regulations. So you can become a prop trader and do revenue with the firm, right? And make money out of that and eventually probably get into your own trading. That's if you don't have capital. Similarly, there are other aspects. Let's say you want to do research and figure out stocks which are undervalued. The first thing to do probably is obviously get the education right and then get into an equity research firm, an investment banking firm who does research on a particular company and then come out with a valuation so that people know that whether this is undervalued or overvalued. So my point is, within financial markets, there are multiple things which you can do. Choose that. Try to get something which is low capital intensive if you don't have capital. Create leverage. In stock market, there is a term called leverage. That is, by putting in small capital, I take a bigger risk, right? Now, point is, if you do that, always remember that there are chances, 100% chances of wiping away the entire capital when you leverage, right? So you should be aware that if you are, I've seen people, young folks who have got retired parents and they use their retired parents' money to trade in markets, right? And they take leverage, which is they trade in derivatives, futures and options. So this is very risky. And I always advise people against it, right? You only start trading with the money you are ready to lose 100%. And you should consider that as a cost of learning, right? If you are willing to do that and if you have capability to do that, only in that case do it. Otherwise, try to find a career where you can get the same learning and can earn some money, create some capital out of the slower process like salary, etc., and then eventually get into it, right? So that's what my advice is. And in terms of the careers, there are a lot of careers which are coming up. For example, because of this social media being everywhere, there are a huge number of stock market influencers these days, right? Who talk about stocks. So they probably are trading or may not be trading, but they share their knowledge with people at large and they create huge followings, right? They create learning videos, they create learning. So since I deal with those kind of people, I know that this has become a huge thing. Probably half of them will get wiped off when the markets tank because nothing goes one way, right? The markets cannot go one way. And when it's a bear phase, people actually get out of it because they lose their money, right? So my point is, there are ways, there are avenues, there are newer avenues, like you becoming a social media influencer with respect to financial markets or personal finance as a whole. You becoming a full-time trader with a prop trading desk, you learning algo trading. Okay, algo trading is where you need to know certain amount of coding also, right? And you work with the algo trading desk. Then you have cryptocurrencies, which is a new asset class. And if you understand that, you can trade in that. You have NFTs, if you understand that, right? So every day there is something new coming. So the whole thing is, if you are into this, you will learn the opportunities. So I invite everyone. We keep sharing a lot of knowledge on our platform because we have kept it as freemium. So I invite everyone. We have a lot of free content through which we try to make people understand what is contextual in financial markets, right? So I would request everyone to join eLearn Markets and download Stockage app to get continuous understanding of what's happening in markets. Yeah.
Do you also think that
I missed one thing.
Yeah, sorry.
I missed one thing. So I would strongly suggest anyone who wants to develop an interest to read newspaper and avoid news channels, right? Because news channels is too much of noise, right? Too much of TRP related content, which makes you, if you get hundreds of stock ideas, right, and you feel that people on TV are saying that, it must be correct, right? That's where you go wrong and you lose a lot of money. So what I'm saying is, do your own research, read newspaper every day, avoid news channels as much as possible, and use tools where you get first-hand real information which you yourself can analyze. Right? There are multiple tools. Stockage is one of them. Obviously, there are other tools also. So rather than relying on any expert or anyone giving you recommendation tip, you should stay away from that, especially when you are young, right? If you don't stay away from them, what is happening is you never know his intentions, his biases, his knowledge. So you might lose your money. Just stay away from any recommendations and tips.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I think, there was this very famous saying or quote that someone, if they are helping you with some shady advice on how to make money quick or something like that, that's just their way of making money. And how much deeper you go into that tunnel or something like that, that is just helping them. And they'll keep advising you to, you'll make money this quick and everything. And stock market is certainly a way to make fool of people. And I think certain people might get, because of the financial illiteracy that we have around these markets, that many people would have found themselves in position that because they were not educated, so they landed up in positions where they could have been avoided if they had someone who could have helped them, or maybe they took a course at Elon Markets. But so there were these two terms that I came across that were fundamental analysis and technical analysis of the market. So are these like mutually exclusive of each other, and are these contradictory, that you can only do fundamental analysis approach or technical analysis approach, or what are these for someone?
Yeah, sure. So these are first of all, what you mentioned, that education, they were not educated. So I would say there are very highly educated people who are not financially very educated. So what I mean is, there are doctors, there are engineers who don't understand anything about money, and that's the reason they don't even talk about it, and mostly they don't make good financial decisions in their life. So I would suggest everyone to become financially educated. That's number one. Number two, when we talk about markets, right, we need to understand that, see, we have a problem. No one wants to become rich slowly, right? Everyone wants to become rich fast. And when it's a fast lane, there is risk, right? And there is risk of wiping away your capital. And if you want to make money out of stock markets, there is there are two rules, as Warren Buffett has said, that never lose money. And the second rule is never forget the rule number one. So point is, if you want to stay in the game, you cannot assume that things will happen very, very fast or overnight. It will take time. And once you give that time, if you have seen the power of compounding, again by Warren Buffett, that it is by Albert Einstein, a quote generally, said that he has quoted this. I am not sure of that, but he said that eighth wonder of the world is the power of compounding. And what is this power of compounding? That in that power of compounding, we all have seen that formula in our childhood, that amount is equal to principal into 1 plus rate to the power time. Here, the most crucial factor is time, right? And people give all their emphasis on the rate, which is the kind of return they can generate, right? So whether you say technicals, fundamentals, all of that is done so that we can generate more returns. Whereas I'll say, for everyone, for a layman, if you can't do anything else, do one thing, and this will matter the most in long term, which is time. That means start early, start investing early, and stay invested for long, long time, right? You will create wealth which you cannot even imagine. My point is, people are focusing on other areas. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. What I'm saying is, everyone cannot learn fundamentals, technicals, and dig deep into. Even if you can't, just remember, pick up very good stocks, right? Blue chip companies. That's not very difficult thing to do, and stay invested for long, long time. That's all. And take financial advice from people, learn, upgrade yourself. Now coming to the question which you asked, that you have heard about fundamentals and technicals. See, these are two parallel studies, I would say, right? Fundamentals are basically fundamental analysis is where you get deep inside a company. Okay. You try to understand the financial statements of the past. You try to understand the management quality, the product which it has, how it will pan out in future, what kind of demand it can have, what kind of cash flow it can have. And you try to give a value to the company that, according to me, for example, it's a Zomato. It is creating a revenue of 3,000 crores in a year. And you believe that it should be valued at, I'm just giving a very simple example. You think it should be valued at 20 times of the revenue which they are generating today, right? So it should be 60,000 crores. And in markets, it's available at a market cap of 1 lakh crore. Okay. So you feel that it is overvalued. So if you have some stocks, you will sell it. Okay. So that is fun. And obviously you look at management quality, what they are saying for future and so on and so forth, because it's almost everything is futuristic, because you don't invest for what they are today, but what they can become tomorrow. So that's fundamental analysis, right? Where management quality is also very, very important, corporate governance, everything. Whereas technical analysis has nothing to do with the company. They might not even know that what the company is into, what business it is doing, or they are only concerned about the behavior of that company in stock markets. That means how has been the behavior of the price and the volumes which are traded in markets. So what they try to do is they try to look at the past behavior, and it's more mathematical because it is based on the past behavior, and they take certain assumptions that either this behavior will be carried forward, right, or it will break out from there. So the point is, based on these assumptions, they take either a buy decision or a sell decision. Okay. So if they believe that it has been increasing like this, there is a word which is very, very common in markets, momentum, right? Which is basically inertia, which means in science, we say that if anything is in motion, it will remain in motion till there is a disturbance, right? So the point is, if the prices are moving in a particular direction with a particular strength, it's a study which says that it will move further. So it has nothing to do with the company. It is purely for trading purposes, right? You take calls that it will, if I buy here, I can sell it here and I can make some money. That's technical analysis, which is based on charts and based on the historical price and volume data of the stock. Okay. So for a non-listed entity, which is not there in exchange, you can do fundamental analysis. For example, Flipkart, it's not listed, but you can still dig out its balance sheet, profit and loss, and do fundamental analysis. But you cannot do technical analysis because there is no history of price or volume. Okay. So point is, fundamental analysis is for people who want to stay invested for long term, who want to take a position and take decision for longer term investment purposes, whereas technical analysis is more for short term trading purposes. So anyone who wants to create a regular income out of stock markets, technical analysis is a good place to start because it gives you trading opportunities. Okay. So friends of mine who are listening to me, anyone who wants to learn technical analysis, they can start small. They can start by learning very basics of charts, which are there, candlestick charts, etc., and then can take forward, probably do a course and take it forward.
That explains a lot. That actually does. And let's wrap this very informative episode with something that is very vital, and with all the education in the world that you can have. But I believe that this is something that you might also agree upon is with all the financial literacy as well, you need a certain discipline to be in this market without creating a huge problematic situation for you. So how does a person, even after, see, I think it is also something with knowledge, like as you gain more knowledge, and someone famously said that now I know nothing. I think it was Socrates or something, that I have read so much that I actually know that I know nothing. So knowledge does that for you, does that humbling for you. But still, for someone who will reach that stage of knowing that they know nothing in a longer period, so they need an immediate disciplined response to, let's say, trading in stock markets, right? Not that like if they see a stock is going down or something, I still am a newbie and I think this might not be good advice, but how do you go about explaining discipline to someone, or is it necessary, and why should maybe they inculcate this in their practices or habits of dealing in the market?
See, there is a field of finance which is called behavioral finance. And I particularly believe that's one of the most crucial aspects to understand. Because at the end of the day, the behavioral, human behavior, the biases, the psychology, right, that works at the background. So whatever study you have done, right, ultimately money impacts our psychology, right? Fear and greed. And these two emotions actually overshadows everything which you have learned. That's the reason it's more important to manage yourself than to manage your money, right? Money can be managed with very basic, simple formulas, right? But as an individual, your heuristics, you need to manage, and that requires real in-depth understanding of you as an individual, and secondly, discipline. Because if you understand that I as an individual has these problems, for example, I set up an alarm and I'll not wake up tomorrow morning, I'll just buzz it for a couple of times. If I know these things, then probably I'll put my alarm 15 feet away from where I sleep. This is the understanding of psychology, and then creating certain cues, certain environmental cues to help you with that. In markets, there is a concept of stop loss, that if you have taken a trade and it's going in the opposite direction, right, you are losing money. There is an emotion which says that the markets are still yet to close. There are 3 hours. It will probably move from here and it'll come again to the price which I want, right? If I cut my losses here, then probably I lose some money. But stop losses are so important. You need to have a predefined stop loss. That means if I enter at 100, I expected the price to go to 110, but it went to 95, and I have a 5% stop loss. Then at 95, I should exit that. Even from 95, it can go back to 110, right? But this discipline is extremely important, because you never know, this 95 can become 80 also, right? So you need to protect yourself against the losses and against your psychological, emotional melodrama which goes in, which says that wait, let's wait for some more time, and you feel that it will go up. But the discipline says, and if you have a system, it says that if the system is saying 95, I'll not put my emotions in between, I'll cut it here. If the system is saying 110, I have to cut, I'll cut it there. I'll not wait for it to go to 115. Things like that. Extremely crucial, right? And not only in stock markets, but also in personal finance. How much insurance you should take, how much health insurance, etc., and how to manage your finances, goal setting, and so on and so forth. You should have a clear discipline for everything. If you have decided that this money is going to go into this fund, it's going to go there. You will not change because suddenly you want to buy a cool gadget. No, you will not do that. So, discipline is extremely important.
That certainly wraps up all the curiosities that I had. I think this does make way for so much more to learn for me as well. And I would personally recommend, because I have gone through the content that you have at Elon Markets, and Stockage is also doing really well, and it is quite popular. So yeah, certainly we have that sort of resource material if someone wants to go into these wells of knowledge related to financial markets and everything. Thank you so much, Mr. Vinny. That was an absolute pleasure, and it was so educating to talk to someone like you.
Pleasure was all mine, Ripudaman, and I must congratulate you once again for the wonderful show you have created. And I'll listen to some of the experts you had a word with earlier, and wonderful sessions. Thank you so much for having me here. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And this brings us to the end of this really awesome episode of the Most Serious Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it did add some value in your life. We will be back again with another interesting conversation pretty soon.